Ladies and gentlemen, at this point, this is the beginning of segment number 10. And I am discussing verses 7 onwards in the book of Genesis. And I don't know how long it's going to take to make each verse. This is the old, and this is the new. Or vice versa. It's getting hard, ladies and gentlemen. I need to get a bigger camera. We're going to move right into verse number 7. Where we left off, God divided the waters with the firmament, which is the vault, which is represented, of course, as the Great Pyramid. Because the Great Pyramid was the Lord God's gift to the Egyptians. It's very similar to the Ark of the Covenant that was given to the Hebrews. Because those two societies screwed it up somehow, no one will ever know, because they took it out of the history books, Lord God took everything away from them. The Lord God then created the United States of America as his next gift, which is proven because the number 1776 is on the base of the Great Pyramid on the back of the $1 bill, which is a representation, of different gods. The Great Pyramid was a representation of a gift from God. The Ark of the Covenant, which is the entire green side of the back or reverse of the $1 bill, was a gift from God, representing God. The spirit entities known as angels that I depict as cherubim or seraphim were gifts from God to protect the Lord God's chariot and or Ark of the Covenant. Another aspect of the angels on the ark, which is the name of my book per se. And you don't see any of this because you have been hoodwinked by an angel. And in this case, the angel that hoodwinked you could have been God, and it could have been Satan, so that you don't see it. I don't know yet. That part of the understanding has not been imparted to me. But either way, you have been hoodwinked into not seeing what is actually right in front of your face and has been distributed to all four corners of the world, just like Deuteronomy verses 1 through 7 depict. Look it up, Google it online, and you will know that Deuteronomy verses 1 through 6 are an identical and parallel storyline that has been imparted to the world as, in this case, the implementation of the Lord God's pictographs located on the obverse and reverse of the $1 bill. The pictographs on the $1 bill is a representation of Deuteronomy verses 1 through 6. And now we're going to go to verse 7 in Genesis. And I'm going to go over verse 7 because in verse 6 we talked about the light that was separated and divided by the firmament, which is the vault. A firmament is a vault. The pyramid is the firmament in the midst of the waters on both sides. This is a firmament is also a vault. What do you think is inside the vault? You see, what you don't understand is what's inside the vault. Inside the vault is the Lord God's energy, that special place inside the Great Pyramid that exists just like the Lord God's Shinka or energy existed on the Ark of the Covenant. The Great Pyramid is a gift from God, identical in nature, not looks, as the Ark of the Covenant. Both of them held the Lord God's energy in one way or the other. Now we're going to move on to verse number 7 in the book of Genesis. And God made the firmament. The firmament is this object which is a vault. The pyramid is a vault that housed the Egyptian kings, supposedly, but it actually housed the priests that communicated directly with the Lord God, the same way the temple priests were allowed in King Solomon's temple to service the Ark of the Covenant. Inside the Great Pyramid were where the temple priests serviced the Lord God's energy, and inside King Solomon's temple were where the temple priests were allowed to service the Lord God's energy. And God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I told you that the waters were on the left side and the right side, but also this body of water, what I call the deep in my book, and it is the deep, is a depiction of verse 7 when it says, and God made the firmament and divided the waters, division of waters, which were above the firmament from the waters that were above the firmament and under the firmament. Start again. And God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament, the waters under the firmament, because this body of water is an extension of this orange dot down here. He divided the waters with the firmament from the waters that were under the firmament, from the waters that were above the firmament. This body of water could be considered above the firmament, because here is where the bodies of water look like they appear, and this is the base of the firmament or the vault. So in retrospect, if this is the base of the firmament, these bodies of water appearing up here are above the base of the pyramid, then he separated the body of waters that are below the pyramid from the body of water that is above the base of the Great Pyramid. This is how the Lord God has decided to impart its knowledge onto the people of the planet Earth. Now we're going to move into verse number 7. Verse number 8 of Genesis. And God called the firmament heaven. Well, I told you that this is the firmament. If the energy of the Lord God rested inside the firmament, then the Lord God's energy, which radiates from heaven, is in fact the energy of the Lord God, or where God resides, and therefore this energy and the energy that exists within the firmament or the vault of the Lord God, he calls heaven. He calls it heaven because this is a representation, a gift from God that represents the same thing as the Ark of the Covenant. It is a representation of God, or this entity that we perceive to be a God, which may or may not be God. There is no way of knowing. And moving along those lines, we need to go into verse number 9. And the Lord God said, let the waters under heaven, right here, under heaven, be gathered together in one place. Well, this body of water, if you look at it, is the lowest point. It's the lowest point in the central portion of the back of the God pod, in the central portion. The bodies of water are gathered in one place, right here at the base under this banner. Because of gravity, they would be gathered together in one place, depicting verse number 9 as having the potential to being 100% provable and true. And let the dry land appear, and it was so. So he separated the water from the dry land with this banner, and he allowed the dry land to appear. Ladies and gentlemen, these words in the Bible are the depictions in the form of pictographs on the $1 bill. In this case, it is depicting something inside the term that I have coined in my book, the God pod, because everything represents life. That is the end of verse number 9. And in order to get to verse number 10, we're going to have to start a completely new segment, because, ladies and gentlemen, once again, I have to tell you, time just moves by so fast when I'm doing these segments. It's almost as if time doesn't exist. But ladies and gentlemen, I got my Poindexter glasses on here. So verse number 10 will probably be an interesting aspect of reality. My reality and soon to be your reality, ladies and gentlemen. And at this point, ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is? It's time for Michael Fazio to get a bigger camera.